Welcome to Marriage Unmasked podcast. Today we get to talk about how pursuing pleasure can actually change everything in your marriage. There's so many times when, you're thinking, I need to work on my communication. I need to fix this. I need to do that. Like we have this big problem and we have to fix it. But actually, there's so much power in just pursuing more pleasure in your marriage as an individual and as a couple. And I don't know about you, but I have heard that phrase, God designed marriage to make you holy. I've heard that so many times, and it kind of is like a cringe factor for me because I can see what they're saying to a certain extent, right? Marriage grows you and it can really, change you and as a person. And that can be a great thing. But that isn't the only reason for marriage.
Right, and marriage originally, because God designed marriage before there was a fall into sin. So marriage was actually designed for companionship and joy and pleasure and friendship between Adam and Eve right from the beginning, and shared responsibilities and to rule over creation together. There was a lot of beauty to marriage right from the beginning, so that the man wasn't alone in the Garden of Eden by himself,
Yeah.
so there's companionship and joy.
And I think we forget, like, God made pleasure, right? He made pleasure. He brought it into marriage. Hello, right? Sex, that is pleasurable. I mean, and it should be. If it's not for you, that's what it was made for, was to be this beautiful, pleasurable experience. And God he's all about joy. He's all about pleasure. He's all about fun, right? He really is. And, I don't think I ever grew up with that idea about God, right? It was like serious, like there was just nothing fun or pleasurable about God.
Yeah, which is so sad, because God obviously, he made a creation and he made people with senses of humor, and he built all this beauty and this joy into his creation. And, there would be no fun in life if God didn't create it. If God didn't create us with a desire to have fun and to enjoy things and to delight in the life that he made.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even just the creation itself tells us, hey, God loves pleasure and he loves fun, and he loves it when people delight in things.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the five senses, like your five senses. Why would God have given you those senses if he didn't want you to experience all the beauty that he is pouring into our lives every day and enjoying that? And so, pleasure, it's not optional. I think a lot of times we think of it as like, okay, well, sure, I could have fun. Like if I get all my work done, I can enjoy things. I can pursue pleasure, like when all the other stuff is taken care of.
Yeah.
But I want you to change your view about it. I want to encourage you to can I look at this a little differently? Can I look at it as if it's not optional, right? And also if it's not selfish. That was something I think was kind of like, this is like this under the surface woven thing that I kind of grew up with. It was like, thinking about yourself, loving yourself, anything like that about yourself, it's selfish. And so pleasure would be in the selfish category, right? Like, it's, this is an extra. This is, you need to focus on giving others, right? Giving to others but it is not selfish. It really isn't. Pleasure is a part of you enjoying who God made you to be and enjoying your relationship with him first and foremost. And then when you're enjoying pleasure as a human being, you are more fully alive, you are more fully you, and you're able to just spread that radiant light onto others. And that is such a gift.
Yeah, it is. And I had some of those same misconceptions growing up, and and I don't even know where it for sure came from. I mean, I had fun and stuff in my childhood, but there was this idea that fun and delight and whatnot was kind of an extra. It's like a cherry on the top. It's not something that you're pursuing as a priority. It's not something that's built in. It's like something that it's nice if you have time for it. It's okay if you get that far, like it had to be, get all your work, like you said, get all your work done before you can do anything fun. It was kind of like the dessert for the meal. It's not something that really belongs there. And there was some, and I think we often we can have this misconception too, and I know I did too, where it's like you are the last priority. Like doing something for you is really the last priority. It's all about other people, and maybe that's part of the people pleasing thing that I really struggled with for many years, and still crops up. But this idea that everybody else is priority over top of me. And I'm going to put everybody else on a pedestal. I'm going to make sure everybody else's needs are met. And then maybe after all that's done, if there's anything left over, I can give it to myself. And instead, it just doesn't work that way. Like you starve yourself of oxygen that way. Instead of filling up what you need when you are full, when you are joy filled, when you are enjoying yourself and enjoying the life that God gave you, you have so much more capacity to love other people.
I mean, and when we talk about pleasure in marriage, like I go back to Song of Songs last week in the podcast, I actually read almost a whole chapter of Song of Songs, and it's all about pleasure, right? It's all about delight, and it's so awesome that God put that in the Bible, right? God gives us that picture, and He gives us all those pictures in Song of Songs for a reason. And in marriage, this is not a secondary thing. It is a main part of your marriage to have pleasure. And so it's not just that marriage is meant to make you holy, right? I want you to maybe explore that, get curious about that. If that's something that you're believing, just get curious about that, because I think God has more for you there. And I understand. I mean, life is lifing sometimes, right? And you are exhausted. And if you're in a painful marriage, this might seem like the biggest pipe dream ever. Like we can't even hardly be civil to each other, much less enjoy pleasure. Yeah. But I also want you to get curious about that, because we want to share today, even if you're in a painful marriage, how you can start to enjoy pleasure. And I get it, right? It's exhausting to be struggling over and over, have these painful conflicts, right? Have this disconnection. That is painful, and it is exhausting. And also busyness can creep in, right? Where we get so into this mode of living that's all about accomplishing, all about doing. Even as Christians, I think that can be a main message that's out there. Like, well, you need to be focused on the mission. You need to be, right? And it's like, God wants you to enjoy this beautiful relationship with Him. Enjoy it, right? Experience the pleasure He has for you. I think that so many times when I've asked God, like, what do I do about this problem? Or what do I do, here? He's just said to me, like, just be with me, right? Be with me. Experience what I have for you, which is joy, which is love, which is peace, which is, pleasure. And so I think let's come back to that. That's my encouragement, is no matter what's happening, the busyness. I know kids, right? Kids, when you bring in kids, that can kind of take you out of being pleasure focused as well, because they have a lot of needs. And so it can be exhausting just to try to be meeting their needs or being patient with them. But even with kids, I think actually they can bring out more.
I was going to say,
right?
Yeah, they can.
Yeah.
They can definitely bring out some pleasure and have you see things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Like bring you back to your own childhood sometimes and your own like wonder and joy, just to see life through their eyes, so that it can definitely bless you that way too.
Totally. So, I mean, I know sometimes life is lifing, and that disconnection can make us think that pleasure isn't even available. Like this is not an option for us right now, but that is just not true. And we want to help you kind of explore what could be possible for you right now.
Yeah, and neglecting pleasure in your marriage, it doesn't just, we sometimes think pleasure is all about the sex in your marriage or like the physical connection between you two, because there is a lot of pleasure there. It's just built into that. It can be a lot of pain too in that sometimes too. But it doesn't, like neglecting pleasure in your relationship, it doesn't just affect the sex life, it affects so many other areas of your marriage as well. It affects your emotional connection. It affects your spiritual connection even. Because a lot of times if we're neglecting pleasure, what happens is our relationship becomes more transactional. It becomes more of a business partnership than it is this enjoyable like depth and this great experience that we're having together in the marriage. And one of the things about like having pleasure and joy is it it's a proven fact that it creates more creativity, that you're more able to be creative, you're more able to solve problems, you're more able to like come at life in general from a more positive perspective, and that usually gives you really good tools to actually solve some of the problems and to work through some of the issues, because you're doing it from a fun, more joy-filled, creative, positive atmosphere inside of you.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that whether we're talking about pursuing pleasure as an individual, which we are talking about today, and we're also talking about pursuing it as a couple.
Yeah.
And so neither one of those things is selfish. That actually is when you're pursuing it as an individual and as a couple, it builds safety between you, right? It builds this safety, this comfortability. You can relax. You're taking your body from this stressed, tight, right, place to this more relaxed, natural state, which is what God wants for you, right? It can also give you more closeness, where you feel more connected and you have more joy. And that helps to carry you through some of the more challenging things, right?
Yeah.
The other day, actually it was last week when we were recording the podcast, and it was a disaster. It was literally a disaster. I think we had to do like 15 takes because the hosting site or whatever it's called, it wasn't working.
It was like crashing.
And it was just a mess. And we were like patience running thin, and it was just a struggle. But because we both are really pursuing pleasure and we're both really focused on connecting, and I went and sat on Adam's lap after, like we were both kind of like bleh. But I was like, I'm gonna come in for a connection. I'm gonna sit on his lap. I'm just gonna hug. We just sat there for a while, and enjoying that. I was listening to my body, and what I felt like I desired was connection with him and closeness. And so I was following that.
It's easier to laugh about things that are like maybe not in the moment when it's hard, but it's easier to kind of like find the humor in things, find the joy, find the like, okay, like you can just, you can go through those hard things a lot easier from a place of positivity and joy than you can from just completely, shutting down and being really angry about everything.
I mean, and when you do seek pleasure in touch, like I did the other day after the podcast, that actually releases oxytocin in your body, which is and that's another cool thing about pleasure is it releases, and God made you this way, where these things release happy hormones in your body that make you feel awesome and help you to reduce stress and all that. And it also helps build trust. So whether it's sex as a couple, or it's touch, or it's just having fun, or whatever it is, right? Pleasure can look so many different ways. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of those ways today. But it can look so many different ways. And it just, it can help you just to feel so connected, build that trust. And pursuing pleasure, I think, is different than just kind of like waiting for it to happen, or like just, well, hopefully I have energy or time to do that. Like I'm talking about pursuing pleasure, right? Pursuing joy. And that is, it just it really brings you back to who you really are as a person too. Because I think sometimes we see ourselves as more of a human doing than a human being. So whether you're, pursuing pleasure together, like we talked about, like with sex and touch like that, or you're pursuing it yourself, that can still bring you back to more connection. So for instance, I've started a while ago, because sometimes waiting for Adam to come home from work is like a stressful time for me. I might be like, the patience is out, right? The kids are a little whatever. And so it can be a more stressful time. And then when Adam comes home, I'm like, rah, 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 right? When I'm not meeting him in the way that I want to meet him. And so I started doing like a dance party in the afternoons before I know he's coming home. And so sometimes he comes home, he sees me dancing, in the middle of the living room.
That's a way to come home from work too. It's a great way to come home from work when I see her and the kids just dancing away in the middle of the living room. It's like, what fun energy,
Yeah, but it's about, it's me knowing, hey, what does my heart need right now? I need some fun. I want to, bring some pleasure into my day and reduce the stress and come back to who I am as a woman. And that really helps me to connect with Adam then when he comes home. So it can be so important to do those things, and so we're going to talk about ways to start exploring pleasure together. We're going to talk about that first.
Yeah, there's so many ways, right? And you can be really creative and come up with a lot of different ways. But the biggest thing is to really be intentional about these things. Like actually intentionally put them on your mind and go after doing them. Not as an afterthought, not as just this thing that I'll get to it if I have time. It's like, this is intentional. This is really built into the way I want to have a marriage here. This is the way I want to live my life, is pursuing this pleasure that God's given us. So one of the ways you can really, intentionally go after pleasure in your marriage is to notice each other again, to really. There's been times too when we're even arguing and I will notice something about Cara. I'm like, wow, look at her eyes. They're shining, like if you really look for the good in your partner, look for something that you admire and you love about them. So noticing them is a way to kind of awaken that pleasure again. Touch is a great way, like intentionally touching each other, even building that into your day a little bit, where it feels right and where you both want it. Non-sexual touch, smile at each other. Like these are little things. They're little things, but they're easy to ignore and they're easy to drop off. Like just the way you look at each other, the way you smile at each other, being playful with each other, teasing each other, flirting again, like you did when you were dating. These are important things to intentionally go after, and they really can change the atmosphere of your marriage a lot when you are intentionally doing them. Another one is you really want to create a safe, relaxing environment in your relationship. That is really key, because if you're always full of stress, if your nervous systems are always overloaded with the stress and whatnot, then there's going to be no room. You're not going to have capacity to pursue the pleasure. And so it's relaxing out of that stress, relaxing out of that tension, creating an environment in your marriage intentionally where there is safety and peace and joy.
And if this is kind of bringing up stuff for you, like, well, I don't want to touch him. I don't want to be playful. I don't want to, flirt and tease. It's probably related to this, right? Creating safety and relaxing. Yeah. And so you need to first create that safety and relax in your own heart. And that's where we talk about the healing, right? That inner healing is so important, even for pleasure. Yeah. Because a lot of times, if there's all that unsafety, these wounds are speaking really loudly.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can also help to create that by just noticing when you're critical, noticing when you're like criticizing your spouse and kind of, okay, how can I reframe this? I don't need to be critical of them. I don't need to create tension in the relationship here. And again, that can help, like Cara said, with the inner healing stuff. When you actually like heal some of the hurts and stuff, then you're not going to be going after criticism as much either. And then plan for things that are joyful. Plan joy into your day, just little moments, little things that delight your heart, that you personally enjoy, that you as a couple enjoy, like something every day. Just find something that really brings you joy. Maybe it's a date night that you have. Cara and I plan a date every week. It's not always going out and doing crazy things, but we enjoy, having a regular schedule of going out on dates. Maybe it's a fun activity that you want to do. We like to hike or go kayaking or whatnot, but that can bring in joy. Maybe it's just learning a new hobby together. Maybe that's something that would be fun for you.
And I know for us, when we started doing this marriage ministry, one thing that happened that I did not expect was how the heaviness it would bring to our own marriage, because we are working with a lot of hurting people, and that can be heavy. And we also come up against a lot of challenges in the business that we didn't, we don't want and we didn't expect or whatever. It's just not the fun part, right? And so we've had to be more intentional than ever with bringing in more fun, bringing in more pleasure. I think we're probably having sex now more than we did before we even started this business, right? And we are planning more dates. We're really getting very intentional about bringing in even more fun, because otherwise it can bring on this heaviness, this stress, this extra stress that we don't want this to erode our own marriage. And so we're trying to protect that, right? And seeking pleasure, intentionally planning in pleasurable activities, that is a way to go after protecting that connection in your marriage. And one of the more fun things about pursuing pleasure as a couple that is not something that you necessarily do alone is that you get to like really celebrate the differences, right? Like celebrate the differences in your bodies, the differences in men and women that really attract you. Like I love touching Adam. Like when he has a shirt off, I'm like, okay, yes, I'm here for it, right? And I am celebrating that I have this masculine man in my life, and I'm enjoying that, right? I'm going to enjoy it. I want to touch him. I want to be with him. I want to be close, right? And so I'm enjoying that. And when you come back to those five senses again, this can bring so much fun into the celebration of you as a couple, and sex and physical touch and all that, right? I mean, you can get so creative here with adding fun into sex and using all your five senses. And I think maybe we'll share more about that on the attraction during the attraction reset workshop. We'll get into the nitty gritty. We'll get into the spicy stuff.
Yeah, and part of that is really slowing down and really like taking the time to enjoy each other instead of kind of like seeing time together or sex or whatever as just something to do, something to get through, something that is just like, okay, well, we got to do this now. Just another task on the to-do list. It's slowing down and actually pursuing pleasure in those times. And really, like Kara said, using all five senses when you are spending that time together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and I think part of that is to first know what brings you pleasure. And I just want to say, because I think this is out there as for so many Christians, is like there's this very hidden like shame about your body or about pleasure or about any of this topic when we get sexual, right? Okay, fine. Yes, you can have fun. Like that's fine to talk about. But then when we want to talk about pursuing pleasure sexually, then it's like everybody freezes, right? Mm-hmm. And I just want to free you from any shame around talking about pleasure and your body and sex and all of that, because if you don't know what feels good for your body, how do you communicate about that to your spouse and deepen that pleasure for you guys together? How do you have these conversations if you don't even know what you desire, what feels good, right? If you're so disconnected from your own body and your own pleasure, you can't communicate that. But that's such a key part of pursuing pleasure, is to communicate it. And so I encourage you to like open yourself up to that, right? So often I think we're kind of closed to that idea, but open yourself up to that and get curious, right? Get curious about what do you enjoy? What do you desire? It's okay. It's okay to think outside of the box about sex and about, pleasure in that area with your spouse.
I mean, God wants you to have pleasure in this area. That's why he made it pleasurable. Mm-hmm. And I think what we often do is we have this view of it that's been, distorted by religious teaching and church ideas and things. And God is not sitting there judging you for having pleasure or for, enjoying the way he's created you to be and enjoying a sexual connection with your spouse. Like there is no shame there. And God isn't sitting there judging or shaming that at all. He delights in giving you pleasure in that area and delights it when you are, enjoying the way he created that to be.
Yeah. I mean, the fact is your body, God created it so that when you touch certain parts and when you move in certain ways and all these different things, right? Different parts of your body light up and brings you pleasure. God designed it that way, and it is a beautiful thing. And let's celebrate it, right? Let's celebrate it. Let's enjoy it to the fullest. Let's not hide it, pretend it doesn't exist, and just kind of go through the motions. We want you to enjoy all of it. And even if right now this is all the couple stuff, you're like, no, I don't want to do any of that. No, I can't even see us doing that. Okay, then let's start with pursuing pleasure, just you yourself, right, as an individual. And that starts with reconnecting with your body and your heart, what feels good for you. I think this this is taking you out of your head, out of the logical thinking and the problem solving and the da 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 da. I have all these things on my mind, all these things in my brain, and taking you down to your heart, right? What am I feeling? What am I experiencing in your body? What's going on in my body, right? What feels good? What makes you laugh? What makes you feel relaxed? What makes you feel alive? These are the things I want you to pursue and to get curious about. What do you love to do, right? What do you crave in a moment? Yesterday it was kind of cold out. I was craving some quiet. I was craving some warmth. And so I got in a bath. I put my favorite essential oils in there. It smelled amazing, right? That's me pursuing pleasure myself. That has nothing to do with Adam. We could be totally disconnected, and I can still come back to my body, notice what I'm desiring, what I'm really craving, and then give that to myself. Enjoy that. That helps me to be more fully alive and more connected so that I can then be more powerful as a woman to all the people in my life. So this stuff is not second. This is priority. This is important, and it can change everything.
Yeah, and it's important for men too. I mean, I can give you the little example of me. I was like driving to work, and I was all stressed out, and I was all like in my head, and it's just like a lot of times we just have to slow down. We just have to like be back in our skin again and feel what we're feeling, and give ourselves permission to feel that. And I was stressed and whatnot, but then I'm like, what do I enjoy right now? Well, I enjoy the sunlight coming in the windows of the truck. I enjoy the warmth of that on my skin. I can look out and I see beautiful things out there as I'm driving. Like, to get back in touch with the beauty that God has around us, and just to like relax into those. A lot of it's just slowing down and just getting out of your head and out of the stress that's going on in there, and just enjoying the experience of being and being present in the moment where you are. At least for me, that was helpful this morning.
Yeah, and again, as an individual, I think when you're prioritizing pleasure for yourself, that actually helps you to then prioritize it for you as a couple too. So we were talking about like, hobbies and doing fun stuff as a couple, but first you might need to do that for yourself and figure out, what do I love to do? Oh, that's right. I used to love doing art. Okay, I want to get back to that. Or I used to love playing the piano. I want to get back to that. Reading. Maybe you just love to get lost in a good book, right? Or you love to dance and move your body or whatever, right? Those things matter. If they bring you joy, start doing them again. Prioritize them. Make them a part of your life, just like you do all the other things that you're regimented about. Add this in as part of how you nurture yourself every day. Because self-care, taking care of yourself, this helps reset your nervous system. If you are going through a really painful time in your marriage, this is more important than ever, because your nervous system is on edge. Your stress response system is going, and we need to help you come out of that. We need to help you relax, slow down. So it could look like taking walks with God, where you're really pouring in, you're filling your bucket again with God and his love for you. And so it's that quiet time. It's you pouring your heart out to God. It's maybe journaling, right? Getting all the stuff out and letting that go, releasing things that you don't need to carry anymore. This is all part of that. And it is such a beautiful, important gift to give to yourself. And, I think a key thing is just be present in your own life, right? Be present. This is your life, and you are a being. You're not a human doing. And so be present. Like Adam said, slow down. Notice what you're feeling. Notice what emotions you're feeling, what's going on in the muscles in your body, or the pain, or the tightness in your body. Notice that. Notice what you want more of. This is just so different than what I think so many of us are living at, and what we're taught, or what we're modeled, right? It's this going, do more. And it's like, no, you don't need to keep accomplishing. That's not what you were made to do, is just sit around and, do more and do better and be perfect. No, God doesn't need you to do any of that. He wants you to be. He wants you to be with him. He wants you to be full. He wants you to be fully alive and thriving. And that's what we want for you too.
Yeah, and actually it's amazing because the more you focus on being, then the doing actually the quality of what you end up doing is so much more because you're doing it from this alive place. You're not just doing it as this forced thing that you have to get done. Now all of a sudden you're doing it more authentically and more joyfully and more creatively because you're taking the time to really get into who you are and being connected to yourself and your own enjoyment and your pleasure in that. So I want to encourage you that this week take one step towards pursuing pleasure in your relationship again. Maybe it's one of the examples we gave. Maybe it's something else. Maybe you brainstorm with your spouse, or you sit down and you think about, use this podcast as an impetus to really start going after pleasure again in your relationship this week in one specific area, one specific thing, both individually, like just for yourself, and also for your marriage as well and your relationship. One really amazing way for you to pursue pleasure would be to join us for our attraction reset. That is coming up soon. That's coming up January 13th. And it is going to be this amazing time where we get to really go deeper into some of these things, to get some tools and some training and some information that's going to help you be attracted to your spouse again, find that attraction in your relationship again, get more connected to your pleasure, and to really implement some of the things that we're talking about.
I cannot wait for this reset. It's going to be so powerful. We're really going to deep dive. I'm going to talk to the wives first, then Adam's going to talk to the husbands, then we're going to come together and do a night where we're talking to you guys as a couple. But we're going to get really deep. We're going to figure out, first of all, why the attraction is gone, right? We're going to get clear on that. We're going to help you come back to your pleasure, back to your desires, get that attraction back. It's going to be so powerful. It's going to get spicy. Rated PG-13R. I don't know. We're not sure yet. But it starts in 1 week. And so the price is only $47. You can join as a couple for just $47. This is going to be one of the best things that you do to start your year off for sure. Just remember, pleasure isn't extra, right? This is foundational. And when you start to pursue this first, it changes everything. So we can't wait to see you next week for the Attraction Reset Workshop.